Young ladies and gentlemen, good day to each and every one of you. Greetings from your respective positions. Once again, you are welcome here on the platform of Awakening of Consciences. It's making international headlines. European allies are divided on the issue of Moscow. They are in the process of dividing, and quite strongly. So, what is everything revolving around? The celebration of this historic date of May 9th, 2025. In Moscow. It's going to be in Russia. Yesterday, we talked about that. We held a video conference on it. We have the head of European diplomacy, Kaja Kallas. This lady, who has been completely opposed to Vladimir Putin, even before her rise to the head of European diplomacy. This lady, who has nothing else in her mind and thoughts but to wage war against Russia. She came out yesterday. She threatened all the countries of the European Union, including even those who have not yet joined but aspire to join. She threatened the countries of Europe not to participate at all in the celebration of Moscow's victory on May 9th, 2025. And of course, knowing that this celebration is not the celebration of Russia's victory over Ukraine, but rather what happened after the Second World War. So, Russia is inviting friendly countries to celebrate its history. The European Union does not want this because for the head of European diplomacy, Kaja Kallas, participating in this ceremony would implicitly support Russia in its conflict against Ukraine. So this is what European states like Slovakia are rejecting. Do you all remember those who followed my video conference yesterday? As if I knew, I had announced it to you. I told you, despite its ban, we will see what some European countries will say, like Hungary under Viktor Orban, like Slovakia under Robert Fico. You know these two gentlemen, I keep talking about them, but they are Russians. If we can put it that way, they are Russians in the guise of Europeans. They are part of the European Union. They are part of NATO. But they are in the spirit of Russia. They are much more liberalist. When we say the spirit of Russia, it's a bit exaggerated. It must be said that they have a different perception of the question of democracy in Europe. For them, your enemy is not necessarily my enemy. And they, moreover, do not even understand why the European Union and NATO continue to fight against Russia. On several occasions, they have opposed the military aid that Europe should provide to Ukraine. In the end, we are not going to say that. There you go. I said, these are people who truly care about Russia. This is how Robert Fico, the Slovak Prime Minister, it should be noted that they even tried to send him to eternal rest. They had attempted to take his life. Unfortunately, they did not succeed. He was sent to the hospital and then spent 2 or 3 weeks there. Afterwards, the gentleman is on an unharmed path. And then he comes back and resumes the same thing. That is to say, they want to send him to eternal rest. And he, whether it's Robert Fico or Viktor Orban, these are the two who are there and who keep putting obstacles in the way of the European Union regarding all the activities it wants to undertake towards Russia. Here is Robert Fico, my namesake, let's put it that way, who, after the threat from Kaja Kallas came out, he made an announcement on his Facebook page. Even though Facebook is banned in Russia, he still made an announcement. He seriously and severely challenges Kaja Kallas. In the context of this video conference, that's what we are going to talk about. But before continuing, I humbly ask you to share this video conference. Share the video as much as possible in all possible groups. Give it a lot of likes. Give it a lot of likes. The Slovak Prime Minister, Robert Fico, announced on his Facebook page that he would go to Moscow on May 9th for the ceremonies, marking the 80th anniversary of the Russian victory in World War II, despite the observations and bans made by the head of European diplomacy, Kaja Kallas. The warning and threat from Ms. Kallas are disrespectful. These are his words. He says that the warning and threat from Ms. Kaja Kallas, are disrespectful, and I express my protest. That's what he said. He continues by saying, I'm going to Moscow on May 9th. Ms. Kaja Kallas's warning, is it blackmail or a warning that I will be punished upon my return from Moscow? I don't know, but I know that we are in 2025 and not in 1939. First of all, to begin with, he outright protests what the lady says. He protests against that. And he reminds that it is blackmail that Kaja Kallas is doing. And he also reminds that we are in 2025 and not in 1939. 1939 was on the eve of the Second World War. So, he reminds that we are in 2025. He doesn't stop there. Robert Fico continues. He says that Kaja Kallas' statement confirms the need to hold debates within the European Union on the very essence of democracy. This means that Kaja Kallas' statements sufficiently prove that democracy is no longer in place within the European Union. Because if there is democracy, people must be allowed to be free. People are free to associate with whomever they want, to choose whomever they want, etc. So he says that this statement, on the contrary, necessitates holding debates within the European Union on the very essence of democracy, since democracy no longer makes sense within the European Union. Robert Fico criticized the European Union's view of the presidential elections in Romania and France, as well as the uprisings that the West is organizing in Georgia and Serbia. There you go. That's another subject. So, it's the standoff between the Slovak Prime Minister, the head of the executive, who can also be called the head of state, and the head of European diplomacy of the European Union. Well, he will go on May 9th, which is not far off. When he turns back, they will impose sanctions on him. Ooh, for sure. But we will continue to follow this standoff. We will see what it will lead to and what the reaction of others will be. Russia will be very happy to welcome Mr. Robert Fico. They will roll out the red carpet for him very well. And as the Russians know very well how to do, Putin knows how to do things that hurt. They will create beautiful images with Robert Fico, something that will annoy, but curiously, the European Union will decide to act. We are waiting to see. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the headline of international news. Thank you for sharing it as much as possible. I will be back shortly with new updates. This was the voice of your one and only samurai.